happy to be here talking about self-esteem today, but one of the reasons is because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about how to improve self-esteem in children, and hopefully I can debunk some of those for you today. Self-esteem is really about accepting yourself, even if you're not great at everything. Self-esteem, I think, is really important because kids who have lower self-esteem tend to feel more depressed, be more prone to anxiety disorders. Statistically speaking, about 10 to 15% of children at any given moment have symptoms of depression. Since the 1960s, depression rates have been increasing in these crazy ways. One example that I have of this is if you look at 30-year-old women in the 1940s versus the 1980s, depression rates increased by 50% for them. And that's a really big jump for just a couple of decades. So then we have to ask ourselves, why is there such this huge increase in depression lately? Over the last several decades, there's been this push that's been dubbed the self-esteem movement. But it was basically this cultural shift away from focusing on achievement and towards focusing more on helping our children feel good about themselves and be happy, which was really well intended. Children started getting rewarded for not being successful. So this idea that if we protect our children from bad feelings, they're going to do better and feel better just wasn't correct. We got it wrong. So what that led to is children started to have a more difficult time coping with disappointments and criticisms because they weren't experiencing them on a regular basis. And then as a result of that, they go out into the real world, and guess what? Your boss is criticizing you, your professor is criticizing you. There's disappointments, unfortunately, in the real world, and mom and dad aren't there anymore to protect you from that. So this is one factor that research has found that is, why the depression rates have gone up. How to praise our children and how to criticize our children in order to improve self-esteem. So accuracy is the key word for both of these things. Don't tell them they did a good job if they really didn't do a good job, but you can praise the effort. So if you offer empty praise too often, it can lead to a lack of motivation in children because they don't really know what it's like to experience accurate praise. Accurate praise is something more like, hey, you put a lot of effort into this game today. I'm really proud of you for that. But I bet if you keep practicing, you're going to have even more improvement, and I bet eventually you're going to be able to hit one of those balls. And then criticism. You want to avoid permanent and across situation criticism. So things like, you never listen to anything I say, you're never going to amount to anything, I'm never going to trust you again. Those never words are very permanent. You're sending the message to your child that they can't recover from this. I didn't like that you called Susie stupid today. I was surprised since you're typically such a good big sister. I really expect you to work on that and for that not to happen again. So using the word today, one situation. So temporary one situation criticism will help improve your child's self-esteem in the way that they see the world.